Welcome, Manuel.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Manuel, you started your career working for Jeremy Zimmerman and you were assisting him across film and TV, and then you went on to work for ICM and you were assisting a huge amount of A-list clients there, and then you went on as head of development for SKA Films, and in 2007 set up Puro casting, which you've been doing ever since. That is a huge amount of different things to be doing in the industry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I don't know. You just plod along, and when you put it all down like that, then yes, it sort of sounds good. But like anybody, you struggle from one job to the next, and you just you keep going. I guess. I mean, it's one of those. I guess it is. It's a passion, isn't it? It's a passion, and so I couldn't imagine doing anything else, and so. You just do it. Hopefully, I keep enjoying it and keep work coming in and keep active in it. I always kind of like to, I like to try different things as well within the kind of realm of.
Are you still doing work on development and within kind of production as well as casting?
Yeah, I've tried to take a step back from that because I think it starts getting confusing, and I try not to give any script notes now on projects and things. I think there can be too many voices, and so I went through a little stage where I had my own slate of projects, and I was sort of pushing forwards with those and trying to get attaching directors and working with writers, and doing all that side of things. But I think it can be confusing where when I've got my casting director hat on, if I do that. I've done it a couple of times on some scripts that come in and I think they're not quite ready to go to cast, but I try not to do it too often. I think it's because there are other people that can do that, and I don't want to be just another. It's not a dissenting voice, but I think it can be confusing, and it can just muddy the waters. So I try to keep my casting hat on, sort of strictly as that in that, but yes, not to say I wouldn't do it again at some point. Yeah,
absolutely. So you have such a depth of experience. You've done so many things. Why casting?
Yeah, it's honestly just sort of great fortune that I fell into it, and that and I was lucky. I really had two bites of the cherry in a way. Because it was my first real job after I came to. When I was 18, I came to university in London. I went to the London School of Economics, and I was doing an economics degree. I was all set up to go and work in the city and become an accountant or a stockbroker or something. And I realised very early on that I didn't enjoy doing that. It wasn't really me. So I used to go to the cinema all the time. I still stayed enrolled in my course, but I used to literally every day go to the Scala cinema and just watch lots of different films. Scala Cinema at the time, this was many years ago, Scala Cinema up at King's Cross at the time was a rep cinema. It used to show 3 or 4 different films every day. And so really that was my film school. I used to just go and hide in there, watch loads of films, do the bare minimum I could so I didn't get kicked off my course. And I realised then I just had a passion for film and a passion for these stories and things just happening on a screen. And so I guess I wanted to work in that field, but I didn't know quite what I wanted to do. And it was really by great luck. I wrote to lots and lots of different people, and my letter landed at exactly the right time in Jeremy Zimmerman's office when his current assistant was sick, and he just needed a person in the office for one day, and that was the day my letter arrived, and he called me up, and I was able to kind of get there within half an hour, and more or less that was it, and so I didn't know I wanted to go into casting. I didn't really even know that job existed until I started working in it, and at the end of that first day, Jeremy said, "Come back tomorrow," and I came back the next day, and I did that for quite a few days until about a month had gone by, and I said, "Jeremy, can I get paid now, please?" And he realised that I'd been there maybe a month, and so I totally fell into casting, and I think I had an affinity for it because I enjoy working with actors, and I enjoyed it. It was my first job, so I was super keen and I was super nice to everybody. And I didn't know how long my job was going to last, and so I was trying to make contacts, thinking, well, my job ends tomorrow, I'll be able to call up a few people. During that first stretch, I worked with him. I kind of stayed continuously for about 7 or 8 years. And I guess it was at that point where I thought, well, I love casting, this is fantastic, but it was my first job and I kind of fluked it getting my job here, but I want to see what else there is in the business and what else, you know, might I enjoy doing, which is why I kind of had a few other jobs and kind of worked around a little bit. And then by pure fluke, a few years after that, I'd always kept in touch with Jeremy. He was a fantastic mentor, and he became a really good friend. And we had all sorts of kind of weird adventures in between when I wasn't working for him. And there was just a time years after I'd stopped working with him, and he called me up and said, "Oh, I'm in South Africa, and I'm going to be here another week or so, and I don't really have anyone in the office. And would you mind just going and having a look?" And it hadn't even occurred to go back into casting at that point. I had my little production company going. I was working on a documentary. I was just doing different things. But I thought, yeah, I can go and sit in the office for a week and sort of take care of it. And as soon as I went back in, it just reignited all my love for it. I'd really missed it. I realised I'd missed the job, and all the agents were more or less the same. All the assistants had kind of graduated and become agents. Most of the actors were the same. They were all just a few years older. And Jeremy ended up staying away for weeks and weeks, if not months, actually. And so it gave me a real good chance just to get back into the job and realise actually I was very, very lucky that the first time round it was kind of like your first love. It's you know, you find your first partner, and then you think, no, I've got to see what else is out there, and then you realise, well, no, that was my first love was the true love, and that's kind of how it feels with casting. I've kind of come full circle back into it, and I thought, yeah, this is where I fit in as a cog in the machine of making films or making projects. It's I fit here, and so I've sort of stuck at it since then.
What is it that you love about it? Can you kind of hone in on anything?
I don't know. I guess it is. It's kind of every day's a bit different, and every day, I mean, it is working with actors that's. I mean, it is a privilege, and it's really good fun to work with actors. Yeah. Because, it's just I mean, it never feels like a real job. You are playing make-believe with people, and so certainly during that time, the auditions and times like that, it's never, it doesn't feel like a real job. It does feel like you're just mucking around with people, and especially because you're doing things in dodgy little rooms somewhere, and you're on you have a really rubbish little camera, and you're pretending that you're on a boat, or you're pretending that you're on the moon, or you're pretending, I mean, it's just pure make-believe, and you just get these fantastic moments when actors come in and they make you believe that they are real people and that you are in these real situations, and it's so that's really good fun. And I guess I really like that you have this real intimacy with the director and the producer. You tend to we're in a funny part of the filmmaking process. We're kind of usually with the very first crew to come on board, apart from the writer and the director and the producer. We're kind of the next crew member to come on board, and we kind of become this tight little team before there's hundreds of other people kind of working on a project. And like I said, you're in a room with just 2 or 3 of you, and I know that maybe 3 or 4 months later they're going to be on set, and there are going to be 100 crew members all demanding the director's attention, and I don't have to fight with all the other crew. I have the director all to myself for a while, and it's usually the first time they've ever heard dialogue spoken out. It's the first time they've kind of started to get to grips with characters and how it's going to really be and how it's going to feel. So I just think it's a really special part of the process. And listen, I'm sure every head of department feels that their area is also as equally special and as equally kind of precious, but it's
so crucial to the film's success, isn't it? And I think it is something that's really undervalued in the industry. You know, that there's not that many awards for the casting departments, are they?
Yeah, no, not yet. No, it does feel a little frustrating that. I mean, it is. Well, yeah, I think it is. It's as equal to all those other departments, I think. And in fact, if I'm really honest, it's kind of the most, certainly in the field I work in, which in film projects, most film projects are greenlit based on the cast. It's not greenlit based on the composer or the director of photography or the wardrobe department. The project gets its money together based on who's in it. And I think that's so yes, casting kind of obviously plays a huge part in just kind of kick-starting the whole project and kind of getting it out there. But yeah, and it is kind of creative. I think it's the I think
it's
when
very
you,
creative as
I think when you, yes, I think that maybe people think it's just an administration job, but I think when you can see how. I mean, it's very rare that you get your first choices for every role, and things just turn out so massively differently depending on who you cast and the combinations of people you cast. And it has a whole effect on what the project kind of ends up as. So I do think it's an important role, and long may it continue.
Definitely. Oh well, it'll have to. You cast yourself a real diverse range of projects, whether it is films, TV, short films, computer games. Is this a sign of the times? Is this a sign of the industry evolving and the casting role evolving? And how have you kind of seen it change over recent years?
I guess I'll do anything that kind of just sparks my interest. And any time I'm in a room with actors, it's kind of a fun time, and it's not. I kind of never think of it as wasted time either. So if it's a short film or just something a bit quirky, just something a bit different, then it's kind of worth doing. It's worth me getting to know new actors, and you just never know when I'll need those kind of people again.
What's one of the most unusual characters that you've had to cast?
Oh, I guess there's always there's the kind of werewolves and witches and things like that. You know, just otherworldly creatures that kind of have to move in an unusual manner, and yes, aren't really based on any kind of reality, but they have to feel real. So you don't expect an actor to do an awful lot. They do have to kind of come up with certain movements that just feel natural and naturalistic.
Can you talk me through the process that you go through when you're casting a project?
Yeah, it's I'm always a bit embarrassed because it's not rocket science. It always feels like I have my little process, and it's just and you kind of bundle through, and it works for me. It has changed recently as well because of changes in technology. So my process has changed. Basically, I'll read a script and I'll make a note of all the characters that I'm due to cast. Mostly I cast all the speaking parts, although I will cast some non-speaking parts if they're kind of key roles. If they're kind of clearly roles that go on a journey and have a character arc and will be directed by the director, then I will cast those roles. I've cast, there's been a couple of films I've worked with where the lead role is mute, where they don't say anything, or projects where somebody doesn't say anything for pretty much most of the project, and maybe they just start speaking towards the end. But those roles are proper actors. They need they will be working with the director closely to portray that role. So I don't do the extras. Somebody else does the extras, all the kind of background artists. So I put in a Word document. I literally cut and paste from a script, and I have a Word document that of all the speaking roles, all the key roles. I then move them all around in my Word document into little categories. I have my lead parts at the top, and then I'll put families all together, or brothers and sisters, and boyfriends and girlfriends, and all those kinds of. I'll put kind of characters that have connections to each other. I'll put them together, so because I know I'll have to cast those roles more or less together, just to make sure we get chemistry right and kind of family kind of appearances right. And then it's, I guess my job is to find real life people to fill all those roles. So I start at the top, because you kind of always need an anchor for each project. You need to kind of cast one person, and then everything kind of flows from that. Usually it's the lead role, or if it's an ensemble, there's still going to be one or two roles that you want to cast first, and then they're your anchors. Then you cast everyone around that. My process is to mostly go to, at least as a first step, go out to the agents, ask them for suggestions, give them the parameters of the project, ask for lots of suggestions. I love it when I get inundated with suggestions. I feel comfortable with big numbers. I like having lots and lots of choices, lots of people to kind of pick from. And then my job is to go from a huge big number of suggestions down to, ultimately down to the one person that's going to get the role. And I just have various techniques to kind of whittle down that big number down to the kind of number one. The first one is it's a very visual thing, and it is just kind of really looking at each individual photograph of someone that's been suggested, and really just try and get a sense of whether I think they would be interesting for the role or not. It's I'll know what the role is. I'll know other parameters. We may have already cast somebody else. I'll kind of know what the director has in their head. Although again, I think my job is also to deliver on what the director wants, but also to push the boundaries a little bit and to give them some choices that they haven't thought of. So I don't want to just completely focus on what they've asked for. it's a very kind of organic process. Some people I'll find just interesting, just from a little thumbnail picture. I'll just think, yeah, that could be an interesting person. They'll go on a long list. Some people will inspire me to think of others that I will look and see whether they've been suggested, and if they haven't been suggested, I'll make a note and I'll kind of follow up and find out why they haven't been suggested. Maybe they're just not available, but I'll and basically I'm building up a list that's still a reasonably long list. It's not 1,000 long, but it still could be 100 or a couple of hundred people long. And now what I'm doing really is I'll, at that sort of stage, when I've got 100 or even a couple of hundred, I'll probably ask for a whole bunch of self-tapes. I'll ask for people just to see what their interpretation of a role is. I think it's just a fantastic way. I just want to see what they will do with it. It gives me a chance to ask lots of actors I've not either not met before to give me an interpretation. It gives them a shot at playing the role, and it gives me a chance to ask lots of actors that I do know. Just to, again, let's have a look at what you do with the role. And then out of those, I will again filter through some of those and start showing them to a director. And then start discussing with the director what they like and what they don't like, and then fine-tune the approach.
Is the director, producers and team, they giving you kind of a bit of a blurb about each character and what their vision is, or does that kind of merge into what your vision is a bit later on?
Yeah, sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's I literally just take it from the scripts and I try and I take it just from what I think the character is from the script. Sometimes you do talk at length with the director, but like I said, you want to yes, you want to deliver what they want, but I always like to also just throw in a few wildcards and just show them sort of different approaches and different ways. I mean, and be very, when I say wildcards, they can be change genders and changing ages and just really change everything around so that they can see that actually it doesn't always have to be exactly as written. It's about choices. Yeah, it's about choices. I don't want to be the one that says, right, here are your I'd like to give them just a few choices that are very different, that would all kind of work in one way or another, and then figure it out with them. Just help them figure it out what's really going to work and what's not going to work.
Do you go back and forth quite a lot then?
Yeah, it can do a little bit. Yeah, it's also it does depend. But I think that's why I like the self-tapes, is because you're not hassling anyone, and you're not kind of having actors kind of come in and wasting people's time. You're not wasting their time coming in and having actors take time off work or do childcare arrangements and just schlep into London. You're kind of able to do a lot of this sort of stuff. I guess remotely. Directors can be wherever they are in the world. Producers can be wherever they are in the world. You can really have you can really make good decisions and kind of get quite far along the process before having to meet any actors in the room. I still think it's critically important to meet them in the room. You definitely want to get them in a room and do the auditions, but I just think getting to that point, I think self-tapes are a fantastic way of kind of getting to that point. I think in the olden days, when I think back to how I used to do it, where I would whittle down everybody down to maybe 10 or 20 people that I would then bring in to see the director, and it was I would bring in actors that I knew were fantastic actors, but as soon as it happened so many times where as soon as they gave you their interpretation of the role, you just knew immediately it wasn't going to be quite right. There was just something about it that wasn't quite right, and you never really know that until you just see an actor try it. And I know that within a few seconds, I know they're not going to get the job. I know the director knows they're not going to get the job. I know the actor knows they're not going to get the job. You sense it in the room, and you still spend 15 minutes with them or 20 minutes with them and redirect them, and everybody's very polite to everybody else. But I think everyone in the room knows that it's not really working, and it's just, I just think back to those days, and you just think, and it's not that the actor is a bad actor, it's just you just don't know, and I think if they just do a self-tape beforehand, it just eliminates all of that, so that the people that do come into the room, once we've seen a self-tape and once the director's had a chance to see the self-tape, and the director more or less will recall people from the self-tapes, it changes the atmosphere entirely in the face-to-face auditions. The director's so keen on seeing them. They know what their approach is. They know, there's still direction to be had, and they're still kind of playing around with the role. But
so you're already at that next level.
Yeah, it changes the entire emphasis of the audition. That first audition is entirely different, and the actors are far more engaged and more comfortable. The directors are really enjoy them, and I think the actors do too. I think the actors really enjoy that. There's less of that feeling of starting and realizing you've not got the role, and so it just saves everyone, I think, massive amount of time.
Yeah, definitely. How much say or influence do you have over who actually gets the role?
Yeah, I think I don't want to have that much influence. I think it's because it's not my job to then go and direct them on the day. And so I always think, like I said, I think my job is to present various choices to a director, and I don't want to give them. Not that you can ever do this. I don't want to sort of say here are 5 people that are all kind of more or less the same, because that's kind of a waste of time. I want them to be quite different and quite unusual, and if I'm able to do the process in the way that I like to do it, where you do, like I said, you start with an anchor and then you kind of build your cast kind of really one brick at a time, so that you find someone and then you find someone that will match that person, and you find somebody that will match already the people that you already have, and you kind of do like that, then I feel that's always the best way. I think it can be hard when you're trying to cast everybody all at once, because you don't have a sense yet of who's playing this role and who's playing that role, and it's really key to, it is a bit of a jigsaw. You need some of those kind of key pieces in place. But yes, I don't want to be totally responsible for it. I like to give the director options and help them make a decision, but it's ultimately their choice.
It sounds like you are working very, very closely with them to get to that point now.
Yeah, of course. Yes, you're sort of there. You're just sort of right there all the time. And then there are some roles, of course, that really it's not even really the director's choice; it's the producer's choice. Those roles that are kind of the namey roles, or the roles that the financiers that need to have in a particular project, and so. You can work closely with a producer and a sales agent as well. My arch enemy's the sales agent.
Really?
Well, we're at the totally different ends of the filmmaking process. The sales agent, who are involved very early on, but they're the ones at the end who have to go and sell the project, and who have to, and who possibly put some money into the project. So they have their ideas of what a perfect cast is, and I have my ideas of what a perfect cast is, and it's trying to meet somewhere in the middle. Yeah, there can be. Yeah, I mean, I don't deal with them personally, but it's it's always filtered through the producer. But it's yes, you're trying to keep everybody happy with the cast that you choose.
How long does it normally take, the process? I presume it varies on depending on who you're working with and the type of project. What's the kind of smallest time and the longest amount of time?
Yeah, it really depends. The project, like I said, we come on board very early on as casting directors, and so, I mean, I can be on a project for years and years before it gets greenlit, before all the money's in place, before you get the star that unlocks the sales, that unlocks all the rest of the money. So I mean, it can literally be years that you really have to kind of fall in love with the project and see it through the thick and thin, see it through all the passes and all the rejection, and kind of keep believing that it's a worthwhile project, and still keep the enthusiasm to kind of sell it to agents, even if it's been around for a while. You've got to keep that passion going, and so it is kind of like a marriage, and so it could be years. But then sometimes you get projects that everything happens very quickly, or you get projects that are have brilliant producers, so the money's already there. It doesn't matter who the cast is, and the money's there, and you have a fixed start date, and you can get going, and you can cast something within 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or if you have to cast it in 2 weeks. You do it in 2 weeks. If that's all you've got, you just get going and you do it in a couple of weeks. It's it's every project's it's kind of different, but it's.
There are so many actors out there. We are swamped in this country, same in the States. Is having an extraordinary memory part and parcel of being a casting director, or do you have some kind of methods, and do you keep records of actors? How do you remember everybody? Yeah,
I guess yes, you do have to have a good memory, although as I'm getting older, it's not as sharp as it used to be. And I do keep a database, certainly when people have come into audition. Everything's kept on a database with my notes. But I tend to, if I'm really honest, I now work from. I always like to start from a blank slate. I very rarely refer to my database. I would rather. I work from a blank sheet, and I want to. I think again with self-taping, I have this opportunity to give lots of actors a chance at actually doing the role, and so it's and of course you will remember some actors. I'll remember lots of actors, but I actually think it's not. Yeah, I would rather they did a self-tape and then and then if it's interesting, I will I'll show it to the director, and they're kind of they're they'll be in the mix. So it's because, like I said, I think it wasn't working for me where I would remember actors. I would remember 20 brilliant actors, all of more or less the right age, and if you bring those in without having seen a self-tape, I'd say 50-60% of them are not going to be right for the role, and it's and so I would. So yes, it's not about memory anymore. It's about, for me, it's about the role in question, the role that I'm actually auditioning for or looking for, and seeing what an actor's approach is to that one particular role, not necessarily how well they did the last role. It's kind of what how they approach that one particular role. I mean, of course, I know that there are going to be certain actors that won't self-tape, and certain agents that won't allow certain actors to self-tape, and certain actors that you're going to just make a straight offer to, that you just have a huge body of work, and so they're fantastic actors, but it's always a little bit of a punt. It is always a punt. You don't know quite what their approach is going to be, and if I'm really honest, I think that's probably why a lot of films we see are a little bit disappointing. There's a huge amount of effort goes into making a film and getting a film financed, and everybody works really hard, but there's still an awful lot that are films that just end up being very mediocre or end up just not really working. And I think a lot of it is possibly down to a flawed process kind of early on, in terms of just offering an actor that role, offering another actor that role. They turn up a few days before and there's no chemistry between them, but you're stuck. You've got to just get on with it and try and make a film work. And there's lots of other reasons why films don't work, but it's kind of a fundamental that if you can get people in a room together, kind of in an audition stage or in a recall stage and a chemistry stage, you can see whether it's, we're all humans. It's not we don't yet have the computer program that will say that these characters, these actors, these individuals are all going to work together, that it's all going to kind of work. You do need to sort of see it in the room, I think if we can get our processes working towards that, and if we can get financiers to kind of not obsess so much over stars or and I know how the business works, of course, and I know that they have to sell films, but I do think that there are kind of flaws built into it at the moment that do sometimes hamper the success of a particular project.
Interesting. Do you put your casting breakdowns on Spotlight, or are you usually sending them direct to the top agents?
No, I'll put them on Spotlight. I try. Like I said, I like big numbers, and so I mean, sometimes I won't. Sometimes if I know it's a very specific kind of role, or if I need a particular kind of name or a big name, sometimes I know I have to go for a name. It's going to be an offer. We're not going to audition anybody. It's going to be a big name. Then I might not send it to absolutely every single agent, because even if you say in big letters, this will be an offer, it needs to be a recognisable name, I'll still get lots and lots of people that aren't. And it's almost, you just think, well, I don't want to put people's hopes up, and it's these people are not going to get, the producers will not offer it to one of these people. So sometimes it's a shorter list, although my short list is still very, very long. But more often than not, yes, I'll try and go to all agents. And I tend to be quite open in terms of actors contacting me directly. I think I'm quite open about that. I don't mind if actors send me an email, or if it doesn't matter to me where an actor has come from. If they can do the role, then that's all that counts. If like I say, I'm very led by the role. I'm not really led by who the agent is, or which drama school people have been to, or what experience they've had. It's kind of, if they can do this one particular role that I'm looking for, then that's kind of enough for me at that particular time. If I'm honest, you might find a perfect actor for one particular role, and they may not have the range to do any other role, but if they can do that one role really well, and you get them in a room and they can do it, then that's fine. I'm really happy for them to be cast. It's you don't have to have the best actor with the most range for every single role. I literally now go role by role. I let that dictate what I need. I don't start with an actor and do it that way, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I start with the role and then I need to try and find the right actor for that particular role.
Yeah, good.
So I think I might have gone right. I'm not sure. I can't even remember what the question was, but yeah.
No, that was good. That's really nice to hear, actually, because I think so often you just assume, if you don't have all these credits or any profile, you're never going to get a role, and it doesn't matter how good you are. So it's nice to hear that, and I think that clearly benefits the project so much more.
Yeah,
so.
I think it does. I do. I think it's I kind of want it to be a meritocracy. I want the best actor for that one particular role to get the job, I guess. It's not, and again, I know I always bang back to self-tapes, but that allows me to do that. Even when I get a whole batch of self-tapes, a lot of times I don't refer back to lists, and before watching a self-tape, I don't kind of try and figure out who the agent is or anything. I literally just focus on the performance, and so it doesn't matter. Yeah, and I don't even double check whether I've asked somebody for a particular self-tape. If someone has sent me a self-tape because they've managed to hustle the script pages from somebody or from somewhere, if they do a good performance, then that's great. That's all I need. I just want it to be a meritocracy. I don't want, I try not to be swayed by anything else. It's how do they interpret that one particular role. So it works for me. It works for me.
How does an actor get on your radar?
They can email me. I tend to respond to most actors' emails. I guess if there's going to be a whole bunch of actors watching this, but I really try hard to respond to actors. I do lots of workshops. I try and be as available as one can be in the business, and I do try and just hand out those opportunities if I can. I will hand out self-tapes. If someone emails me and it looks like they could be right for particular projects, I'll ping them an email. I try and say yes to agents when they want. If they ask me if they hustle a little bit about certain clients that they want to self-tape, I would always rather see. I'm always happy to see more actors for particular roles. It's just you've got to hustle. I hustle. We all have to do that. There's no kind of nothing's ever given to you on a plate. You've got to just kind of. It's part of the job. I think is to keep. It's just to be persistent and have a thick skin, and just keep at it.
As a casting director, when you are bringing actors into the audition, if you haven't seen them, it's a risk for you, because the actors that you bring in are kind of representation of you and your work, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I guess, again, it's the self-taping. It just completely, it takes that away. It allows you to have risks.
Well, that's right, because if I ask for the risks, if the self-tape comes in and it just doesn't work, then that's fine. That's kind of between me and the actor, and no one ever needs to see it. But if it allows me. But if it's something really unusual or really odd, then and it just seems to work, then it's great. I can't wait to share it with the director, and it's and I get lots of credit. I have to admit, I get lots of credit. Directors think it's fantastic when I do that, and of course I'll accept all the credit. But really, it's the actor doing the work. But it's it allows me to do that. I just kind of think through. I guess I've been doing it for a long time, and I kind of see how the technology has changed over the years. And yes, our job was kind of to know actors, and I know lots of actors, and like I said, I would bring in actors that I know really well, but they just wouldn't be right for the role. It's not that I'm lazy and I didn't know actors and I was randomly picking people to come in. But I remember lots of times that was part of the job, that you would kind of cringe a little bit, that was the stressful part of the job, where ultimately it would be my decision to bring in it. A director can't see lots and lots of people, and I would bring in maybe 10 people, and even if I pre-audition them or my job was to bring in a certain number of actors, show them to the director, and the pressure bit of the job, the bit that made you feel awful, was when you could see on the call sheet, which the list of actors that you brought in, the director putting lots of crosses all the way down, just thinking, I've completely messed up and I've completely misjudged this session. And that used to happen, not all the time, but yes, there just would be a remarkable number of crosses, and you would hope that you would get a few of the ticks and that you would eventually kind of get there. But it really is, it's a completely different thing now with if you've had self-tapes and you've shown the director self-tapes, so they know who's coming in, they're aware of it. It becomes a very, very different environment. It's just the whole atmosphere of the audition changes. And that is to the benefit of the actor. I think the actor senses that as well. It just becomes a different thing. And I do get a little bit of pushback still from some agents or some actors that don't want to self-tape or don't, and I do feel it's my job to try and explain to an agent that they're doing their client a disservice. We're not doubting their talent, we're not doubting their acting ability, but there is just something there. There's something that until you see someone's interpretation, until you just see them in the role, you don't know whether it's going to work or not. I mean, that's the whole point of having an audition, and let's just save everyone loads of time, and let your client self-tape. It's to their benefit. Let them do it in their own time, at their own home. If they let them prepare, let them not have to schlep across London. Let them, if they make a mistake, let them have that opportunity to do it again themselves without anybody seeing. I think there are so many benefits. Of course, it's not flawless. There are lots of flaws with self-taping, but I think they far, I think the flaws in the actual audition, face-to-face auditions as a particular step, without self-tapes, I think the flaws there far outweigh the flaws for, I think there's less flaw. What I'm trying to say is there are less flaws in the self-taping kind of process, and it's just the technology is there now. Almost everyone has a fantastic little camera,
phones,
on their phone, and so the technology's there, and so it's kind of like. Again, looking back over the years when we didn't have show reels and we didn't have colour photographs and all these different things that we didn't have, and then we've embraced changes in technology, but now self-tapes, I think they are kind of the next step. It's the evolution, and it's to me they're better than show reels. I don't really want to watch a show reel because it has no real relevance to the character that I'm doing, and it's I watch show reels in a certain way. I watch just a few seconds of a show reel, but I don't want to judge an actor's ability from a show reel because that's not going to tell me whether they can do the role that I need. And so it's so yes, show reels have been great for a while when we had no other alternative, in the way that show reels were fantastic. Before show reels we just had photographs, then we've had show reels, now we've got self-tapes, and who knows what we'll have in the future. But I think as technology changes, it does supersede what has come before. So for me, show reels are becoming less and less important.
Interesting. How do you if show reels aren't as important, how are you kind of identifying actors to then ask them to do self-tapes? Is it really just kind of the look, and then maybe listen to the sound and just an instinct and gut that says, I think they might be right?
Yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, it comes down to that. Yes, I mean, I watch little snippets of show reels just to get a sense of an actor and a sense of what they look like on camera and what they sound like on camera, and yes, to sort of see what kind of work they've done, and just to kind of get an overview. But again, I don't want to, I know lots of actors struggle to get show reels together, and just because you don't have a great scene with Al Pacino and another great scene with Julia Roberts doesn't mean you're a bad actor. It doesn't mean you can't do the role that I'm after. And so yes, you are using all these kind of random instincts, and it's so non-scientific indeed, but it's and that's the way it should be, I suppose. And I often it's like finding your life partner. It's totally unscientific. Again, if somebody had the questionnaire that would match us all up with our perfect other half, then that would be amazing. But it's just an impossible thing. You just don't know until you just give someone a shot and give someone a try. And so I think that's that's kind of what I like to do.
Are there key things that you see time and time again that frustrate you about actors?
I don't know. I think I've managed to, bully them out of all that. No, I shouldn't. No, are there things? I guess I think I'm known for wanting actors to be off book, to learn their lines, really learn them, because I think it's very hard to direct somebody when they keep referring back to a page, or it's just hard to see a real character if they're referring back to a page. And so I really want them to learn their lines. But that's about all, really. I think that's about all. It's just learn your lines, and then at least we can play with the character, and we can kind of focus on the role, instead of just having this kind of awkwardness. It's and I know other people do it differently, and different kinds of projects. People are fine reading, when they're reading off book or cold reads, but it's just not the way I've ever worked, or the projects I do. It's you need to kind of be able to be in character.
So important.
So I think that's my one thing that I would always really try and urge an actor: just try and be off book, please. And,
one thing that I've heard a few casting directors say is that you should go to the audition as if it's the job. So prepare as if you are going to do the job at the audition, and obviously that makes sense. But time and energy and being able to do that, and sometimes when the role is so extent, but surely that's so important for you to be able to show them. You need to show yourself doing that role for you to be able to say, yes, that's it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's right. And actually, if I'm honest, I think you have to put that amount of effort into a self-tape as well. I think there's a few things to say about that. I think you just don't know which job you do is the job that's going to lead to the next job, and work begets work. You don't know if this little one-line role is going to lead to you being noticed by somebody, that leads to something else, that leads to you making literally hundreds of millions of dollars in your career, if that's what you're after, or just having a successful career. You don't know what the role is nothing is ever signposted, so you have to give it your all each time. But I had a talk with a wonderful actor who had just a really different approach, and his approach was when he has an audition, the first thing he says to himself is like, I'm not going to get the job. Okay, so I know I'm not going to get the job, but instead I now have this opportunity to do what I love doing, which is act, which is, I've got this opportunity to play a character that isn't me, and so why wouldn't I do absolutely everything? I've got one chance, I've got one shot, there's only ever going to be one performance of this scene that I am going to do, and so he absolutely puts everything, and he enjoys it. He kind of goes, I've chosen this is my life, this is what I want to do. So whether it's a face-to-face audition or whether it's a self-tape, I'm going to see this as my one and only shot at this role, so I may as well do it to the best of my ability, really enjoy doing it, really enjoy giving that performance, and then when it's done, that's it. I've done it. That's it. It doesn't matter whether I get the job or not afterwards. And I think it's just a great, it's just a really wonderful kind of mantra. Just don't think you're going to get the job. Try to, do
as if it is the job.
Yeah, it is the job. This is it. These two scenes are the job. That's it. And you have got the job. You've got the audition, or you've got the self-tape. So do it. Enjoy it. Really give it your all. Invest everything you possibly can into that character, and then feel happy that you've left it all in the room, I guess. And then that's it. Move on with your life. And if you get the job, then that's a little bonus. But it shouldn't be about that. It shouldn't be about that at all.
You really have to enjoy the process, don't you? Otherwise, you're not going to be doing it 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, because it's just too tiring.
Yeah, that's it. It is. There is. There's so much kind of rejection involved, and so many twists and turns to it. It does have to be a passion, I think, being an actor. You do need to want to do it regardless of whether you're working professionally or whether you're getting paid for it or not getting paid, or regardless of how big or small certain roles are. You've got to, I think you just have to want to be doing it, no matter what.
You have, as we've said, so much experience and a lot of achievements, and you offer a huge amount of tips and advice to actors. The workshops and the articles and the little videos that you're constantly doing to help people is brilliant. And you also run your own online course and your own acting community, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no, well, there's just, it all started, well, I think that I guess it all started with the website. I remember, I wanted to set up a website, and I guess I realised that there just wasn't. I just wanted actors to know what I expected from them and how to do various things. And I thought, well, yeah. So little by little, I just started sticking various things up on my website, just. Because it was kind of shrouded in secrecy, I suppose. Every casting director has their own way of doing things, and I just thought, well, it's not really fair to expect people to know what I want without telling them. So I started putting up lots of tips on my website and just things that really pertain to me or auditioning for me, so that they knew what to expect. And then, and it kind of grew from there, I suppose. And then about a year ago, I had an idea, just an idea for a course, for something. It was kind of, just a strange story, but I built this platform where actors can come, and it's really a safe space where actors can come and share their work. Everyone gets to do the same role at the same time, and then they share their work and they all comment on each other's work, and I can comment on it, and it's sort of really taken off. It's sort of a joy, really, a joy to watch. I mean, it teaches lots of self-taping kind of technique, which is, I guess, what I initially wanted it to do. I wanted actors to learn about self-taping, and because there wasn't anything like that, I thought, well, this is how you can self-tape. It's not as scary as you all think, but it's kind of turned into something much more than that. I think it's really because it feels like a little playground. It does feel like a playground where actors can go and feel safe, and they've come from all over the world. It's really lovely. They all come from all over the world, and I think it's just people have kind of reconnected with what they loved about acting and the playful side of it as well, and it's a place where people can kind of take risks and make bold choices and really interpret characters in different ways, and then see how everybody else has interpreted the same material and the same role. So this
is your 21-day self-tape challenge. I've actually done it myself, and it is absolutely brilliant. And it's such a scary thing to embark on, and when you are very busy and to commit to it. And I won't lie, I didn't get through the 21 days because there's a sense of you want to put in the effort and you want to commit to it. You don't want to half do something. But the discoveries that I made through it were fascinating, and like you say, to watch other people doing the same role and to see what they've done is amazing. And I love that you really cover, all of the kind of technical side of it as well. And that's something that they're not doing in drama schools. People need to learn that. Like you say, it's really going to become more and more kind of used throughout the industry. So it's completely invaluable. And I think it's something that actors struggle to get right. And is that something that you find? Maybe just the technical side of it.
Well, yeah, I guess because I love self-tapes, and then you see actors not doing themselves any favours with certain kinds of self-tapes, and because they are usually very simple fixes and very simple things. And again, it was just that why keep it secret and why keep it hidden what you're after, or how you can frame something, and what kind of framing we expect, and all these sort of things. It was just like, it just felt kind of obvious to, well, why not just share that, I suppose, share this is how you do it. And I put lots of stuff on my website too. I kind of so it's not, people don't have to do a course, they can still kind of have a look on the website and find out all sorts of information. But yeah, let's make it easy for people.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any kind of key errors that people consistently make with self-tapes to kind of watch out for?
I guess it's you just got to remember, we're really focused on your face and your eyes, so it's just frame yourself kind of almost insanely close. We really wanted to kind of see this. So I really would say, look back at your self-tape and have a look at the frame, and always frame yourself in landscape, not portraits. Again, people might want to do it portrait style, but it always feels better if it's landscape. And really just have a look at the size of your head. Look back at it and look at the size of your head and see how much it fills the frame. Because I sometimes get self-tapes where you look at the size of somebody's head within the frame, and I can't help but doing a little cut and paste and kind of cutting the face and kind of imagining how many times I could paste that face within the frame. And you can just sometimes go, man, I could paste that face 30 times within that frame, and that just means,
zoom button.
Yeah, it's just like, that's just, you're wasting all of that other, there's loads of space above your head and loads of space below your head. That's the most important thing. It's your eyes and your face that I want to see.
Not the movement.
Not the rest of the room. So I kind of think, yes, you want me to be able to paste your head maybe 3 times within the frame, just because yeah, let your face really fill it, and it's your eyes that we're really after. So I guess that's the simplest. That's the simplest.
The one thing.
The simplest thing. But it's just spend a little bit of time before your self-tape, setting up your studio and kind of doing it when you're not under any pressure or not stressed out. Kind of go through the process from start to finish. Give yourself a little mock self-tape and just go through the process, that you know what you're doing. So that when you have a real self-tape, you don't feel too stressed out about all the different bits that kind of go into doing it. Because it should be quite a simple. I think once you've done it 3 or 4 times, it does become second nature, and then you can spend all your time focusing on preparing for the character and doing all that kind of character work, instead of worrying about lights or worrying about editing or all of those things. Once you know the process, then that's it. You can not forget about. You can forget about those parts of it.
One last question for you.
Right.
What do you think makes a successful actor? Are there any key traits that you see?
Oh, I don't know. Yes, what makes a successful actor? No, I think you have to be a reasonable human being. But I think that's like the same in every kind of job. You want to be someone that people are really happy to work with. Because I think that kind of counts. I think, when you get the job, it can be kind of stressful, and when people are filming, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, or lots of timing things. So you don't want to be someone that that becomes a pain during that process. So I always think for anybody in any job, yes, try and be a reasonable human being is kind of a good rule for life in general. It's like anything, work hard, be really dedicated, really work hard. I think you're always learning. Everybody's always learning every single day. You should be, don't think you know everything and you know it all. Be reasonable to everyone. I think that's just a nice way of being in life. Try and be helpful and oh gosh, these are nothing to do with acting. I know that's not what you wanted. You wanted.
No, I mean it's good. I mean, personality traits and being open and responsive and part of the team. It is important.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and it is working hard. Work on your craft. Don't assume that once you've come out of drama school, you're an actor and you know everything, or that every day there should be different things. You should be learning new things or different things about the job because it's what keeps it interesting. It's just about working hard, and it's a group endeavour. I guess that's it really.
Brilliant. Manuel,
Good.
thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. You were absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Thank you. Cheers.